be hosting this session, thanks to Strategy Council and Stephen Butler in particular. This is an event that I always look forward to not only have the chance to catch up with colleagues, but Strategy Council always does a fantastic job of bringing people together, and it's an opportunity to catch up with friends in London in a very nice setting. Unfortunately, this year is virtual for obvious reasons, but nonetheless, I'm sure we're going to have an excellent session thanks to the quality of the panelists. The way we're going to run this is I'm shortly going to be turning over to Ambassador Pristaiko, Ukraine's ambassador to the United Kingdom. And after the welcoming remarks, I will introduce 6 panelists who will share with us their views and vision for their respective fields. And in particular, the theme here is infrastructure, improving, modernizing Ukraine's infrastructure. And given that we're hosting this out of London, the role of the UK and UK investors in realizing this vision. So with that, allow me to introduce Ambassador Pristaiko. We look forward to hearing your welcome remarks. Ambassador.
Dear friends, colleagues, if you hear me. Okay. Dear friends and colleagues, welcome to the 3rd webinar within the 4th annual Ukrainian Investment Roadshow. I'm pleased to see that the global investment community remained closely connected despite the COVID limitations. And let me thank first Strategy Council and Stephen Butler for hosting this 4 days info marathon. More than 600 registered attendees prove that this decision to keep a tradition of annual Ukrainian investment forums untouched, even if it is online, was indeed the right one. Well done, Stephen, thank you. Forum is important, but obviously substance is what matters here. I'm pleased to observe a growing interest from the global business community towards Ukraine. In the course of 2 previous days, we have heard very interesting opinions, some pleasing our ears, some critical, lots of economic statistics and speculations. So tune up, more engaging stuff is coming your way today with the focus on infrastructure, natural resources, state enterprises privatization. But before we plunge into discussion, let me briefly share with you the picture of the political landscape, allowing us to care with this careful optimism of even strong economic ties between Ukraine, the UK, and the rest of the world. An unprecedented story behind the election of Vladimir Zelensky as the president of the Ukraine, and first ever solo majority in the parliament, still encourages some interest, but not in news anymore. What is important, though, is that over this surprisingly short period of time, some remarkable changes have been achieved. And there is belief that they will have a lasting and form-shaping effect. Arguably, nothing is more important for the land, legendary black soil. Finally, much-needed land market reform was launched. The decision was taken despite enormous opposition and manipulations. Next year, a free land market will open up. This will be a major incentive for all future economic development in Ukraine. The law on concessions has adopted, but first successful tenders with foreign investors have been already held. Separation of gas production coming from transmission network of state-owned Naftogaz, better known as unbundling, was one of the most significant reforms in the energy sector since the history of the independent Ukraine. A new regulated market and derivatives law brought the systematic changes in Ukraine's capital markets. A large-scale privatization has finally started, and we have some really good success stories to share with you. Our solid position in the world's IT and fintech markets are only getting reinforced. Fun fact, IT share in Ukraine's trade with the UK grows 30% annually over the last 3 years. Ukraine is creating a unique virtual economic zone, DSCT, which with special tax, finance, and legal regime will allow and ensure the development of creative businesses and attract additional foreign investors. As to Ukraine-UK's relations, I'm happy to report to you that they are in the best shape since the establishment of diplomatic relations some 30 years ago. In early October, against all the madness, complexity, and uncertainty of elections, we managed to carry out President Zelensky's official visit to London in a range of important meetings and agreements on security, trade, and our cooperation to a next level. Our countries became which means that new level of trust, cooperation, and support is here. This also means new opportunities for business. On October 8th, President Zelensky and Prime Minister Johnson signed historic UK political free trade and strategic partnership agreement. The 500 pages document covers security, trade, sectoral cooperation, and investment, and sets principles for our future relationships. This agreement came at landmark time for both countries. Ironically, Britain is the final departure from the EU, while Ukraine is reinforcing its relations with Brussels. But that's not important. What is important is that at the same time, both nations are building stronger bilateral ties and liberalizing access to the markets. The agreement offers a range of advantages for our post-Brexit relations. Free trade with Ukraine will make a significant contribution to the UK food security, while Ukraine is becoming an attractive partner for the global Britain. Ukraine now has the opportunity to tap to £2.5 billion of UK export finance for the defense, agriculture, energy, infrastructure, and healthcare, according to the memorandum signed the same day. Such support is much needed at a time when capital flows to Ukraine are under pressure and the global economy is at its most fragile period in modern history. As UK helps overseas buyers to purchase goods and services from UK exporters, UK investors in overseas markets, we believe we can find a lot to discuss and exchange. Just the last example for you, the UK will help to re-equip the Ukrainian Navy with modern missile boats that are compatible with NATO standards, will construct naval bases in Ukraine. This means multi-million trade contracts and opportunities for both nations. This year is truly challenging for each and every one of us, but we need to find opportunities to move forward. I believe that Ukraine and the UK have found them and encourage you to utilize the potential to the full extent. I wish you all productive day today, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for the words of encouragement and setting the context in terms of the political situation. I think you hit on a lot of the achievements over the past several months despite the pandemic, and thank you for that. And so the way we're going to structure the rest of the discussion, allow me to introduce perhaps myself first. I'm Jason Pelmar, the Regional Country Manager for IFC, the private sector arm of the World Bank Group. I'm responsible for our program in Ukraine, as well as Belarus and Moldova. I've been in the role now for nearly 4 years, and therefore I've had the pleasure of working with many of the panelists and many of you, the viewers. Now allow me to introduce the panelists. But before doing so, I think the way we'll structure, we'll give 10 minutes approximately to each of the speakers. Some have slides. And so please do feel free to share your screens when called upon. And then we're going to try and, despite the virtual framework, try and make this as interactive as possible. I'll take the liberty of asking questions, and I believe Stephen Butler in the background will be monitoring for questions posed via YouTube. So first up, we will have the Minister of Infrastructure, Vladislav Krekli. The ambassador had mentioned the concession law, among other legislative achievements. The minister has been one of the biggest beneficiaries of this legislation in the port sector, and there are many more projects that we look forward to hearing from the minister. Shortly after the minister's presentation, I'll be calling on Olga Magaletska, the head of the National Investment Council. The NIC has been extremely active since its founding in promoting foreign direct investment as well as domestic investment into infrastructure and other critical areas of Ukraine's economy. The ambassador also mentioned the recent successes in privatization, and we'll be hearing from Dmytro Senichenko, who's been heading the fund for some time. We look forward to hearing what's been achieved to date and his plans with regards to both the small-scale and large-scale privatization in infrastructure and beyond. We'll be joined then by Roman Opimach, the head of the State Geological Service, when we think of infrastructure, we often think about what's above ground. But obviously, Ukraine is blessed with many resources below ground, and it will be important to realize this potential as well. After which, we'll hear from Pavel Stanchak, the director at Ukraine's gas TSO. Again, referring back to the ambassador's remarks, indeed, one of the greatest achievements in recent history has been the unbundling of Naftogaz, the state oil and gas company, and the creation of the GTSO. And we'll look forward to hearing from Pavel about his vision. And finally, Rose Trigg, the regional director for UK Export Finance. And obviously, none of this is going to get achieved without financial resources. And we look forward to hearing how Rose and her agency will be bringing financial support to these initiatives. So with that, over to you, Minister. Thank you.
Hello, Jason. Thank you to you and to Vadim Pristaiko for gathering all of us at this online platform. My team is saying that they shared the information with the presentation to you. I don't know, could you push the play button just to show it to the other colleagues?
Sure. So I believe we have Stephen and his team in the background. If they're able to share screen, that would be appreciated.
Okay, before they will launch it, I will just say that we have freshly backed concession law. So I recommend everybody from the investors to invest, first of all, to the concession projects, not to privatization with Senichenko. So please make a right choice and begin your investments to the Ukraine with the concession projects. Of course, I'm joking. We are competing in the best way, and we are helping each other. So Jason, do we have some slides? Or any difficulties?
So I'm relying on Stephen Butler and his team. But in the meantime, why don't you go ahead and kick off, and let me see if I can find them within my.
Okay. So I will begin that this year we finally adopted the inland waterway law, and it's strong signal because finally we are not only maritime state, we are also inland waterway state, and we have this basic frame law, and now it will be availability to invest, to protect the investments in the inland waterway transportation. And of course, it's a new opportunity. It's a new transportation route, and we expect that it will grow. So we expect that it will triple at least during the next 5-6 years, from 20 million of tons to 35 and even more. Of course, I will start and begin with our concession projects on the maritime. So I will shortly remind that this year, we signed agreements with your support, and thank you again, the Kherson seaport and Olvia seaport with one of the largest seaport operators, Q terminals. And of course, we're moving forward, and we have already some ongoing projects. It's a very complex in Chernomorsk seaport. It's our concession projects for passenger terminal in Odessa seaport. As well, we have the Izmail seaport, Berdyansk, and we expect, as I know many investors are interested in the Chernomorsk container terminal complex, and we expect that next year we finally will kick off this project, and we will move forward with support of IFC, our international partners, and we finally will show that we will have wider range of. Oh, great! Finally, I see it. Yeah. So this is the details for our concession projects. As you can see, we are showing the total amount of investments for the Kherson. It's 10.8 millions of US dollars, and over 120 million of US dollars for Q terminals, from Q terminals to the seaport Olvia. And we're very happy and excited because it's much more than we were expected at the beginning due to assessment. So we understand that Ukrainian investment opportunities still being very pretty, and we have a large list of interested investors. Of course, we are not only dealing with this Chernomorsk, with Odessa passenger terminal and smaller. Yeah, you will see it on this page. So it's the location on the map of Ukraine. And I want to move already to the next slide, to the railway sector. We prepared a list of railway stations together with the assistance of IFC group. It's Kiev, Mykolaiv, Khmelnytsky, Vinnytsia, Dnipro, and Kharkiv. I always love to emphasize that, for example, only the Kiev passengers terminal has such large amount of visitors per day that, for example, McDonald's that just situated behind the passenger terminal is number 3 in the most visited McDonald's worldwide. So you can just imagine what are amazing opportunities for the investors will be opened if you will invest in this project. Finally, we prepared and we had the separate online conference with colleagues, with different investors interested in the road concession. And we have already prepared 6 road concession projects. Please, yeah, thank you. For 1.4 thousand of kilometers, and it's over 1.5 billions of US dollars to invest. And we hope that we will open new page of the concession projects with adopting new changes to the law. Our plans is that we will realize it already the next year during 2021. And of course, it's a big opportunity for us because only this year we have built over reconstructed over 4,000 of kilometers of the state roads, but it's only the beginning. So we expect that with the investors, with the concessionaires, with our partners who can build and invest, we can build even more, and all state roads and bridges will be reconstructed even faster than were expected. And we ask you and invite you to join
і ми запрошуємо вас.
Construction. So please invest. It's really one of our main targets and aims. Maybe I will just add to the roads that.
Можливо, я просто додам до.
To invest, attracting the money to the intellectual transportation systems, because in our digital era, we are not could be limited only by this simple road reconstruction, even with some safety elements. We want to analyze, we want to understand what is the best, the smartest way to invest, how we can manage the traffic, how can we plan new road networks, and we want to invest in the ITS systems. Thankfully, we have some support from our European partners like European Investment Bank for the smart roads. But I think that we will also manage some type of concession for the ITS systems with the private capital as well. Aviation strategy and the aviation sector. So we were really high in all the numbers and amount of the passengers traffic till the end of the 2019. For sure, we have dramatically drop in numbers of these passengers this year due to COVID, but it's a temporary problem. We expect that next year, 2021, we will have already reduced at least 50% of the maximum of our passengers traffic, and during next 2 years we will reduce all the drops, and we will continue showing the larger and hiring our numbers of passengers in the air transportation. We prepared a large program of investment from the state budget to aviation sector. It's only next year we plan to make repairment, refurbishment, reconstruction, modernization of and new buildings like Dnipro. Dnipro is a new one, and 5 more airports to reconstruct. On 2022, we plan 7 regional airports to reconstruct and 4 in 2023. We prepared together with IFC. Again, thanks, Jason. Today we have almost all your time and your attention, because IFC was participating in like almost all projects, very successful projects. So we have prepared for and investigated and prepared the feasibility study for pre-feasibility study for 4 airports. It's Kherson, Chernivtsi, Lviv, and Zaporizhia. Of course, it's first of all the interest of local partners. I mean, municipal and our local authorities to decide to go with the concession or to manage it alone. But we have already 2 interested local authorities like Chernivtsi and Kherson, which are very interested to attract investors and to find a new opportunity how to make the regional airport more attractive. And of course, with such approach, they will be much more lucky and invest in investment context interesting for the investors and for the tourists. So it's just a short list of our projects for the next year. We are still working and cooperating in a few ways in parallel. So with the state budget and state support, with different authorities, with private investments, and of course, our main target is to reduce number of projects which are managed by in state property in the hands of our state managers to 0. So thanks with your support with our international partners, we expect that during next 3-4 years it will be possible, and we will just have such brilliant online meetings or offline meetings discussing only what great results we managed and we delivered to our state with such nice approach. So as always, our top priority is private investments, to support private investors, to be in all sense investment nannies. And we will be more than happy if in your scope will be transport sector, because it's the basic win which can deliver the best results to economic development. So thank you for your attention. We are always in touch and at your disposal.
Thank you very much, Minister. And indeed, I think this is more than just a vision. There's a track record of success that you can personally put your name towards. And I think the Olvia and Kherson port concessions demonstrated not only to us, but to investors that the country is ready with the right structures to attract foreign investors, domestic investors to critical infrastructure projects. And as you mentioned, it's not just the ports, although there are a number of ports that are currently being planned, but it's rail, it's roads, and roads, I mean, the numbers are massive, as you alluded to, for the potential. And then we have the regional airports, which right now, COVID has caused some havoc in terms of travel, but we do expect it to bounce back, and the private sector can play a very big role in allowing Ukraine to realize its vision of attracting private sector investment to improve the infrastructure. So a big thank you to you, your team, and I'm very excited and hope that we will get some UK investors as well who will be interested in these assets. And I also appreciate you stirring up a little competitive pressure with your friends and colleagues, because I think there is a big debate in terms of PPPs, concessions versus privatization. I think Dmytro will point to some of his successes as well, but the pressure is on. So we look forward to hearing from him shortly. And with that, why don't we then turn to Olga, who has a big picture perspective, broader than just infrastructure. But Olga, your thoughts from NIC and where you see the opportunities. And Ambassador, please do stay with us, because hopefully we'll have time for Q&A throughout the session.
Jason. So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency Ambassador Pristaiko, the Minister Krikli, Mr. Perlman, Mr. Butler. I'm grateful for the invitation to participate in this conference. Ukraine has many promising assets that certainly attract foreign investors. And of course, the pandemic has adjusted the investment plans of many companies, though Ukraine remains in the view of the world players. And have to say that according to the latest consultancy survey about the experience and perception of investing into Ukraine, we see that about 65% of respondents, actually investors, believe that there is no influence on their opportunities and their will to invest in Ukraine due to COVID-19. And the majority of the responding investors, it's about 71%, consider government incentives as highly important to their readiness to move into Ukraine. And according to them, the most important government investment incentives are like tax breaks, security land ownership, special custom duties, and initial site preparation. So it's also one of my answers to you, what investors need even now. And basically, I believe they need that anytime, despite of COVID. And therefore, in recent months, the Office of the National Investment Council and NIC has been actively working on the draft law 3760 on state support of investment projects with significant investments. And according to this bill, Ukraine will provide a number of incentives for large investment projects, in particular tax incentives like exemption from the income tax for 5 years, from custom duties and VAT when importing new equipment into Ukraine. Also, the simplified provision of land necessary for investment projects is proposed, as well as the construction and reconstruction of related infrastructure at the expense of the state. The bill provides consolidation of investor guarantees with the conclusion of direct agreement with the government of Ukraine for 15 years, and the total amount of state support will not exceed 30% of the amount of investment into capex of the project. So state support will be provided for investors who are going to invest more than 20 million euros, as well as who will create at least 80 new workplaces. And the project implementation period should not exceed 5 years in such sectors of economy, like processing industry, except for production of tobacco and alcohol, for extraction and further processing and or enrichment of minerals, like except coal, crude oil, and natural gas. They already have some incentives. Waste management, transport, warehousing, postal and courier logistics, education and science, healthcare, art, culture, sports, tourism, resorts, and recreational industry. And this bill, 3760, was developed on the basis and best practices existing in the Europe and especially in our neighboring countries with which Ukraine competes for investors. This bill has been voted positively and had a first reading in the parliament this summer, and now we are in the preparation of it for the second reading, if I may say like that. And I hope next week we will finalize this work and it will be in the parliament again for the second reading. And I hope our parliament, our MPs, they will vote positively on that. So we expect it to be voted by the end of the year. Thus, the bill aims to encourage potential investors to invest in Ukraine. And after the adoption of this law on state support on investment projects with significant investments, it is planned to develop some legislative initiatives to stimulate projects that provide small amount for investments, so to stimulate the SMEs, small and medium enterprises. And they would be implemented in the certain priority sectors of economy. As NAC, we also heavily involved in the draft law on stimulating the development of the digital economy in Ukraine, which Ambassador Pristaiko mentioned as DSCT, and all the related draft laws and amendments to tax code of Ukraine. And this draft law is also a very positive sign for future investors in Ukraine because it provides a number of tax preferences for the companies in IT and digital economy, and including startups and small and medium enterprises. So the IT companies will receive a special taxation model, flexible employment, condition introducing the gig workers concept, which exists, by the way, in Great Britain, and also a separate procedure for interacting with state regulatory authorities. Also, some of the amendments of the English law were implemented into this draft law, but let's see how it goes further with such amendments. DSCT, it will be a special legal framework for the IT industry that will create the most powerful, I believe, IT hub in Ukraine and Central and Eastern Europe. It will have no boundaries for investment, creating jobs or developing new technologies. So not only Ukrainian, but also the entrepreneurs from all over the world will have the opportunity to quickly and effectively implement the most ambitious, innovative business ideas in IT sphere. And as already everyone knows, Ukraine have many promising assets for privatization, of course, and for M&A deals. Various greenfield and brownfield projects, objects for PPP and concessions. And when all those approaches implemented successfully, billions of dollars of investments can come to Ukraine. And our goal, our common goal, is to create a favorable investment and business climate. And I hope that with such state incentives, also, as I mentioned, with the draft law of special incentives for investment projects and the DSCT and some more, we will help to attract into Ukraine more and more investments. And thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Olga. So no, it sounds like we have a lot of competition, not only for projects and success, but who's going to be the nanny. But thank you for all the excellent legislative initiatives and your support to making a favorable regulatory environment, and so that investors from the UK and elsewhere can come into Ukraine confidently. So much appreciated. And with that, Dimitro, over to you.
Thank you very much. Dear Jason, Your Excellencies, dear colleagues, glad to be here with you. Looks like 1 year ago I was at this conference in London. Let's be adopted to this way of communication, but I hope we will be back to normal life because physical face-to-face is always much more pleasant. It's exactly 1 year since I was appointed to the position of the head of State Property Fund, and we have done some results already visible. We have to continue to heat up the political will because the opportunity window is always narrow. There is a strong will for the privatization directly from the President of Ukraine, from previous and existing Prime Minister. We have to heat up this political will, like sending signals from the investors to the members of Parliament of Ukraine, because somehow they managed to vote the law this year that put a ban on big privatization. I hope we will open this again but we need your signal, we need your support, we need your signal from the side of the international financial organizations and from the real investors. That's what I am continue talking to all politicians, that there are money in the air, there are money in the world, and we have to realize our potential, because we are always potential, but we have to realize this potential. Geopolitical situation, exceeding number of state-owned assets, the human capital potential. Ukraine is very attractive, but we have to make political decisions and to open Ukraine in terms of privatization and other instruments, public-private partnership, to bring the capital into Ukraine. I will also show you the presentation. Please put it on the screen. The next slide, that's me. You have seen me. Next slide. Okay, I have the, so for general understanding, we have in Ukraine 96 state bodies, which are ministries, agencies, and other state bodies who are managing 3,644 state-owned enterprise. This is absolutely exceeding amount of state-owned assets that desire proper triage, and those which could be and should be privatized should be delivered to the state property fund for the privatization. We are the vehicle between the governmental institution and between the investors. What we have done during this year to be already a service-oriented institution for the investors, we have changed completely the way of privatization. Instead of the newspaper, which was issued before with information what and when, we have implemented the open website, virtual data rooms, open communications, investor relations office, when you can apply to the state property fund, and in English, in French, in German, probably in some other languages, we can answer you in clearly what will happen when and how. So asset disclosure and unprecedented access to the information, these are internal components to a new approach of fair and transparent privatization in Ukraine. We have done following, during the 10 months of work with our professional team, we also prepared a new draft law, which we will submit end of this year to the parliament to facilitate the process of transfer of the non-core assets for the privatization and ensure there are much less barriers and not necessary bureaucratic processes to invest in Ukraine. In the loan privatization, we have so-called small-scale privatization and large-scale privatization. Since the beginning of the year, we have announced more than 1,700 auctions, including so-called middle-size privatization. Besides the Hotel Dnieper, we have conducted, as I said, 1,700 auctions, but and we see the demand. We see that Ukrainian money, international money are coming and investing in Ukraine. The parliament voted in March when the coronavirus pandemic started, a strange decision that put a ban on large-scale privatization, and we have submitted the law that have to cancel this ban. We need all your support to send the signal to the members of parliament that the market should be opened. These are the results of just new approach of open and transparent delivery to the market information, comparison to year 2019 and 2020 shows that we have growth on average number of participants. Market believes us. Then the price growth and number of auctions. Just for the last 3 months, following the program of demonopolization of alcohol industry, we have privatized on the open auctions 13 facilities out of 78 Ukrainian national spirit producer Ukrspirt, and these auctions to be continued this and next year. Only for the 1.5 months we brought to the budget 750 million hryvnias, and these are all plants which are brownfields, which are not working. Exactly, the main policy of privatization is to sell on the reasonable price, but of course the main effect is coming after the next investments, after the investment in these brownfields, building and new ones. Of course, the ambitious plan for the big privatization, as I said, was banned by the parliament, and now we've been fighting for 7 months to convince the members of parliament to allow us to continue preparation, because big privatization is done with the involvement of investment advisors, investment banks, Big Four, and we have done a lot of work. Now we have prepared for the privatization. For example, United Mining and Ore Company, which is titanium ore production, we can put it on the market with a starting price of 4 billion hryvnias. We have completed full due diligence, teasers, investment memorandums. We just need the law that will allow to bring the investments to the country. I will ask all colleagues to remember this and send a letter, SMS to the members of parliament, to the Office of Cabinet of Ministers and President. Olga Magaletska should help us again, because this is the national idea which was proclaimed by the President and Prime Minister. We have to push it forward. We are ready. We are doing all the homework. This is the United Mining and Chemical Ore Plant, which is ready for privatization in the first quarter. We completed due diligence with BDO, Baker McKinsey. It's ready. We have hired KPMG advisor, and it will be on privatization like 30 hectares of land for the excellent development in the downtown of Kiev. It's the name of machine building plan. Unfortunately, for the moment, it's just the brownfield site for the further development. But it's a lucrative asset. Odessa port plan, we completed 3 out of 5 stages for the privatization. We can move it forward. Again, the last 6 regional distribution, electricity distribution services companies could be easily privatized in the next year. This year, the RAB tariff, which gives additional motivation for the investor, was adopted. Now we have the last 6 Oblenergos, which will be ready to be sold on the auctions next year. Again, the ban on the law should be eliminated, and they will be on the market next year. We have also prepared a set of various investment projects, starting from brownfield for construction, completely new, brand new, green aluminum plant, joint production of electric locomotives for Ukrainian railways, and various projects up to industrial parks in major cities of Ukraine. I will be not taking much of your attention today. We are open, as I said at the very beginning. We have Investor Relations Office. We are ready to answer all questions, to help investors to feel comfort in Ukraine as much as we can. And privatization should go on. We have shown that we can do new standards of disclosure, of providing information, equal access. The political will is needed. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks very much, Dmytro. Indeed, it is good to hear. We know how challenging the role is, but you do have a number of successes that you can be proud of on the small scale side, but also some of the medium sized privatizations as well. Agree with the sentiment that political will is required for the larger scale, more complicated privatizations. And you do have the support of the broader IFI community, and happy to continue the dialogue.
Send letters. Just send letters. We would like to invest in Ukraine. Open the market.
So I think that's an appeal to the investors that are viewing, and indeed please do. The purpose of this event is to whet the appetite of those who can take over these assets and add value, both for the private sector companies, but also for the benefit of Ukraine. Maybe one question to you, Dmitry. You mentioned some of the, in addition to the privatizations, if I understood you correctly, you're also preparing greenfield projects. What is the nature of that work?
We have a lot of, we have different instruments in Ukraine. Besides privatization, the State Property Fund is a specially designed institution under the Cabinet of Ministers. According to Constitution and law, we are regulating valuation and appraisal market, and we are doing reform together with experts of the World Bank. The new standards of valuation and appraisal will be introduced in Ukraine next year, completely new reform. Again, we are the regulator of leasing state property market. The new law was adopted. The sub-laws were adopted this summer. The new leasing of state property through the electronic platform is doing it. We are also institution which has designed to manage and corporate rights of the state, which is separated from the political influence. And we are the institution that is designed to realize privatization. Everybody is thinking about state property fund in the old time that we are only institution to prepare and privatize. But we are in the constitution and in our law have various instruments to bring investors, to organize public-private partnership, and this is all we can do.
Okay, no, excellent. Now I better understand the competition with the minister. Good. Thank you very much. Okay, so and please, I think we'll have more questions from the audience when we get through the formal presentations. So allow me now to turn to Roman Opimak with what's going on below the ground. Roman.
Hello, everyone. So nice to see you all here. So happy to be with you. So today I'm going to talk about the investment opportunities in exploration and production industry of Ukraine. So I'm running the geological survey of Ukraine. We are issuing the licenses for exploration of production for all kinds of mineral resources and providing the carry out the geological assessment of different kind. So I'm trying to just a second, launch my presentation. Here we go. Nope, just a second. Share the screen. Share. Open system preferences. Okay, files. Let's do it with files. Sorry about that. They have the presentation. Can you, James, can you launch my presentation? Oh, thank you so much. So great. I see you right now. Hope everyone is can observe it also, right? Thank you. So what I'm going actually to describe today. So we are going to talk about strategic and critical minerals, which draw currently big interest, big attraction all around the world. We understand that the realization of new project, green project in exploration and production industry. James, who are changing the slide, you or me?
Allow me to change it for you.
He's changing.
Okay, the previous slide, please. So yes, you can see the greenfields project demand a huge, usually a rich demand a huge investment. They are attracting the investment intensive project. We understand that we need the attract the investors to realize them, and even more, we need to bring new technology in Ukraine to realize such a project. So the regulation in upstream industry is pretty attractive. So we are going to update it and improve, but so far it's attractive enough. Let's say like that. So there is Ukrainian government proclaims the open door policies for to attract the foreign investors specifically. And there is three ways how the investors can came and open and enter on Ukrainian markets actually. So the one option is the farming deal, right? When someone is going to make the partnership with the current license holder. The second option is to buy the regular concession license, so up to 20 years. And the last option is to go and negotiate with the state the terms of production sharing agreements and sign the deal for up to 50 years. Next slide, please. Ukraine is a resources-rich country actually, and our mineral base is able to meet not only the needs of national industry, but also the needs of other countries. The survey actually launched at the end of the last year the Atlas of Investment Opportunities in Upstream Industry, where you can find more than 300 of different opportunities. So it contains proposals for subsoil license with deposits of strategic and critical minerals as well. Among them, you can find also so-called minerals of the future, which again, the demand on them is in the world market is expected to grow rapidly. Next slide, please. On that slide, we highlight the 14 elements which we evaluate as the strategic and critical minerals. You can see, and all of these elements are under the ground in Ukraine. Among them is lithium, titanium, gold, nickel, cobalt, oil and gas, and other. So in my presentation, I'm going to stop on 4 of them specifically, and you can find more information in our presentations later. Next slide, please. So the lithium. Currently, as you know, Ukraine possesses one of the largest lithium deposits in Europe with proven reserves and contingent resources. Lithium metals used for manufacturing of batteries, electronic batteries, computers, electric cars, as well as glass and ceramics. In Ukraine, currently, there is 2 lithium fields already explored. One of them is licensed. And there is also lithium ore currencies combined with the other minerals. Next slide, please. So here we go, how it's look like. So there is three blocks. 2 of them are prepared for auction, and it's open to be nominated for electronic auction, which are going to actually passed online. So there is a QR code. You can find more information about the blocks. So Shevchenkivskaya field, this is a lithium ore field, and we are going to propose actually 20-year license. It's located in Donetsk region. There is an area, there is a resource base. And again, following the QR code, you can find even more information and reports about these areas. Next slide, please. There is a slide. There is a map of Ukraine, and with location of proposed deposits. Next slide, please. So titanium licenses. Ukraine is one of the 10 leading countries in the world in terms of the explored reserves of titanium ore and provided more than 6% of their global production, 27 fields and more than 30 ore occurrences have been explored. Currently, only placer deposits are being developed, which are about 10% of explored reserves. The rest is contained indigenous deposits. Titanium is used in aviation and missile technology, shipbuilding, machine building, and other industries. So far, the one of the placer fields open to be auctioned actually, and it is good that these proposals is very linked with the privatization of one of the assets which Dmitry Senichenko mentioned. Dmitry, I will send you this presentation in a good quality better, so it's a little bit cropped right now, sorry about that. So next slide, please. You can see for the next two slides, you can see actually the short description of these lots. So there is seven proposals which are open to be auctioned. So the first one is Malishevska, and the another six. Next slide, please. And next slide, please. All of them you can see on the map. So again, Ukraine has a bunch of the licenses holders. 17 licenses are on the hand right now. So half of them are under the development, and the new proposals the new proposals on the map also. Next slide, please. So gold that we had launched just recently, the first auction in the history of Ukraine for gold will take place in the middle of this month. The next three parcels license are open to be auctioned. Actually, all of them are for exploration and development for the period of 5 years. Next slide, please. Here we go. So the first one will be already auctioned in the middle of December. So I invite everyone to observe it. It's easy just to follow the link. Next slide, please. Eventually, okay, the map is here. So you see the assets in gold mining. Next slide, please. So eventually the hydrocarbons, oil and gas. In 2020 and 2021, we are going to propose acreage with a total area for over 45,000 square kilometers. So it will be covered by new licenses. So this year the survey sold two concession licenses, which are actually cost $23 million of US dollars. Also, we're happy to see the Polish PNIK. This is the exploration and production company on Ukrainian markets, which makes the farming deal. Then the production enhancement contracts was signed by Romanian export petroleum company with national producers UGV. We expect to sign 8 production sharing agreement after the 1 year of negotiation by the end of this year, and finally relaunch the Yuzivska production sharing agreement project, which was dropped in the middle of 15 by Shell exploration and production. Next year will be very intensive also. We are proposing the offshore blocks in Black Sea. We are planning to sign another 3 PSA with foreign investors, which already was elected as the winner after the international tenders last year. And we open new 10 licenses for concession auction in a couple of months. Next slide, please. So I would ask you to follow the news. Actually, we are going to update our portfolio recently, and please contact this survey, contact Tatiana, contact Mikhailo, please contact Ukraine Invest office as well to stay in touch with us. Thank you, James. That's it.
Thanks very much, Roman. So indeed, Ukraine is blessed with resources. We usually think of the, when we think of resources, we typically think of the agricultural resources, the black soil. But clearly there's a lot of wealth under the soil. And now we have the legislative means for investors to take comfort and come in. So thank you for sharing that with us. Why don't we then turn over to Pavel Stanchuk. We're back above ground getting gas to market. Pavel.
Hello. First of all, thank you for the invitation. I'm representing the TSO of Ukraine. This is the logistic company, especially after unbundling. We are focused on logistic. And of course, we have transit. Everybody knows about it, but we also have the domestic high-pressure transport, which we are focusing very much today. We understand that in Europe, everybody are talking about the green scenario when there is less and less hydrocarbons needed, and but we still believe that for a couple of years, I would say, not very short time, we believe in a blue scenario where the gas will increase a little bit at least, and replacing the coal. So we invented, even during the prior to the unbundling, we invented this custom warehouse for the underground system storage. And thanks to the short haul, today in Ukraine, there is a lot of gas from the companies, European companies, most of all, and this is about 10 billion. But today I would like to say about the possibility to be a big player in the investment area. Let's say it could be like investments in the gas transportation system, and I'm going to show this to you. Could you see it? Thanks. So we are today monopoly. We are unbundled. Our owner is MGU, who bought us from the Naftogaz of Ukraine, and MGU is owned by the Ministry of Finance. And the gas TSO of Ukraine has developed a strategy for next 5 years, which was approved by the shareholder. And among the others, we would like to optimize and modernize the infrastructure, optimize to the new situation, because we believe that this domestic high-pressure transport will still on the same level, a little bit growing, but the transit, which we historically have on a level of 140 BCM, it will decrease. Today it is 55, 58, Next year, we predict also on the same level, maybe 50 something. But I'd say after those 2 years, we predict that it will be about 40 BCM. So that's why we have to modernize, and we have to adjust to the situation. I would say that today our income is about 34 billion of hryvnias, and but from the domestic transport it is about 10. So you see that in the future this is not having the transit, the situation with the tariff has to be achieved, has to be aligned to the what we will have in the pipelines to transport. Okay, so we are expecting that this and another year we will be among the 10 top companies from the turnover point of view, and we also are the big contributor to the budget of Ukraine. We are going to invest about 40 billion of hryvnias. This is about 1 billion pounds, and over the next 10 years. And I'm going to show it in details. So the next 2 years, 21, 22, we predicted as the most the years where when we will invest most of the money, and then the rest will be invested up to 2029. You see that the biggest part, this is the investment in for the gas compressor station. The other part, this is the distribution station, and finally the pipelines and others like SCADA, for example. Those 10 compressor stations we are aiming for, they are beginning from the small one like Komarno. Komarno, this is close to the Polish border, but this is important from the interconnector point of view, through the big one, which are more focused on the transit like Uzhhorod, Bohorachany, and we are focusing only on those compressor stations, which we believe will stay as an important one also after the transit is diminished or is almost zero. So I would like to say that we are looking for the reliable international partners, manufacturers, who are able to meet the needs of large volumes of procurement, which are stable from the financial point of view, which has experience. And from our side, we show 3 persons. This is General Director Sergei Makogon. You can always write to him, or to me, or to Olga Belkova, who is the Director on Corporate Affairs. So thank you very much. If there are any questions at your service, thank you.
Thank you very much, Pavel. So no, indeed, I think there are a lot of opportunities in the midstream space, particularly if we have more success in the upstream, then there'll be even more demand on your assets and need for more investment. So thank you for that. Then why don't we now bring in Rose Trigg to the discussion. Rose, you've heard a lot about the ambitions of many of the key government representatives responsible for Ukraine's infrastructure and oil and gas and minerals. If you could tell us a bit more about your organization and the financing that you can provide.
Of course, thank you, Brett. I'm just going to share a few slides. There you go. So hi everyone, it's great to be here. So I thought I'd just start with a bit on who we are as UK Export Finance. So UK Export Finance, or UKEF as we abbreviate it to, is a UK government department, and we're also an export credit agency. So what that means is we exist to support exports from the UK, basically, and that includes supporting the overseas buyers for projects that are involving UK content. So we're actually the first export credit agency in the world. We've been doing this for over 100 years. And we've consistently been named one of the best ECAs in the world as well, not to boast. So UKEF in Ukraine, this is quite an exciting time for UKEF in Ukraine. So for each country, we have what's called a market risk appetite. And this is how much we're allowed to either spend or guarantee in one country at any one time. And we've recently expanded our market risk appetite to Ukraine to around 2.5 billion. So this is reflected in an MOU signed between our Secretary of State, Liz Truss, and the Cabinet of Ministers in Ukraine quite recently. And that just puts into writing our shared willingness to work together on projects in a range of sectors. Because that market risk appetite can be used in any sector virtually. Ones of particular interest that might be in Ukraine might be around infrastructure, as we talked about today, maybe renewable energy, roads, healthcare, agriculture, defence. We can work in virtually all sectors. So how is that actually used? So we provide a range of products. So these fall into three categories depending on the intended outcome. So first of all, you've got the sort of the win contract side. So whether it's to enable the buyer to finance the purchase involving a UK good, helping the exporter to win that contract, or we're providing the support directly to the exporter to help them fulfill and get insurance for that contract. So I think with what we're talking about today, the buyer side financing will be most relevant to this conversation. So who do we mean when we talk about a buyer? So that can either be a government, a corporate, it could be a corporate loan against the balance sheet of the company, or it can be a project finance structure where there's actually been a special purpose vehicle set up and there's sponsors for that. So the way that we provide our support is that provided there's a minimum of 20% UK content, and that content can be goods, it's most often capital goods, it can be services and intangibles. So it can include things like design, project management, as well as the more traditional forms you might think of as capital goods in a project. So the way that we do this is we can finance up to 85% of the export contract in two different ways. We can either provide a guarantee to the bank who's making the loan to the overseas buyer. So that's 100% UK sovereign guarantee. It's unconditional and it acts as an enhancer of bankability for the overseas buyers and that project. So that could be bankability in the sense of credit or in the sense of loan tenors as well. So then what will happen is the commercial banks then price the loan on the basis of that UKEF guarantee, and that guarantee is equivalent to the credit rating of the United Kingdom of AA. So that removes any country risk element from the transaction, and usually that translates to quite attractive cost savings over the life of the loan and means that the buyer has a number of years to repay it. The benefit for the exporter, it means that they get paid up front as if they had, a cash contract. So the second product that we can offer is direct lending on this side. So that works very similarly in that the bank is still the agent of the loan, but the money is made available essentially from a UK government pot in simple terms, and it has a fixed interest rate, unlike buyer credit, which would use the sort of floating rates used by banks. So it's also a finite pot. We have 8 billion in this pot for direct lending. And I think some exciting news recently is that we've had 2 billion allocated to that for especially clean growth projects. So as a government department, the UK is hosting COP26 next year. We're committed to sustainability, and clean growth is becoming a really big part of what we do. So that 2 billion in the direct lending pot is available for clean growth projects, and we define that using the green bond principles definition. So that can be renewable energy, it can be water and wastewater, eco-efficient transport, buildings, adaptation to climate change, biodiversity. That broader definition of clean growth all fits under this 2 billion for clean growth and direct lending. So I'll just finish with a few case studies on how we've used this in practice. I'll go very briefly over them. So for example, in Dubai, we provided a mix of, it was actually buyer credit and direct lending, which is something that we do quite often. We'll mix the two projects. And that was for the build of the Dubai Arena. It was a large entertainment and sports venue, just under 20k seater, and that opened of June last year. Another example that might be relevant here is in Sri Lanka. We used the buyer credit facility to a value of 39 million. And that was for the build of over 500 steel bridges from a UK exporter, Cleveland Bridges. And that was directly to the Sri Lanka Ministry of Finance. A good point to mention is that that was a long-term commitment. So we supported transaction for phase 1 and 2 of the project, and then more bridges were added to the project, and we supported a contract extension as well without needing to create a new contract for that. And I'll briefly mention renewable energy as well, because that's becoming a key part of what we do. We provided buyer credit to Taiwan for Formosa 2 offshore wind. And a key thing to mention there is that we actually provided the support to a foreign non-UK EPC, and this is something that we do quite a lot. The UK exporter that we finance, provide the support for, doesn't have to be directly the main contractor. We can support the main contractor even if they're not from the UK, if they're subcontracting with the UK supply chain or they plan to source from the UK as well. So that's quite often a way that UKEF support will be mobilised, even if a big UK name doesn't win the main contract. Another example in Oman, we financed the build of 3 different hospitals there. So that was a mix of direct lending and buyer credit to the sum of 700 million there. Hospitals are quite a good example because the UK can obviously provide support in the construction phase, but we're also particularly strong on exports of medical equipment and services. So all of those, we can take UK content from different contracts within one project, add it all together, and that will add towards the UK content in the project above that 20% minimum. And so, of course, there's other case studies I could talk about, but I want to wrap up and get some time for questions. And so, of course, infrastructure encompasses many different things. We're looking at lots of projects in railway and road. We're looking at motorways in Eastern Europe at the moment. So to wrap up, I think I'm really pleased to be covering Ukraine at the moment, and we've expanded our capabilities so much, seeing lots of, not a shortage of opportunities. So really happy to discuss, how UKEF support can be mobilised as well. Thanks.
Excellent. No, thank you, Rose. And I think that was a great way to wrap up the formal presentations. We heard about the legislative framework. We've heard about the projects that are in preparation. and at various stages of development. And obviously the financing is going to be key. And knowing that we have the support of the UK, as well as specific financial mechanisms, I think that's critical. So we have just 8 minutes to go. And there have been a number of questions posed from the audience that I've been receiving throughout the session. If we still have the Minister of Infrastructure with us, I think there is interest in hearing a little bit more in terms of the timing expectations of some of the projects that are under preparation. So if you could make a few remarks in that regard, Minister. Not sure we have Vladislav still with us. So then why don't we move on? We have another question to Dimitro. Dimitro, you had mentioned the Obla Energo privatizations. If you could share with us your vision in that regard, and particularly with the fact that I think state ownership is not 100% for those assets.
Yes, you can hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, we have last 6 regional distribution electricity companies, Oblenerga. The state has majority, absolute majority. This is starting from 65% to 87%. There are different percents. The rest is privately owned. We will hire the privatization advisors hopefully at the first quarter of year 2001, targeting the auctions autumn, winter 2001. We have some ideas how to make comfort for the reputable international investors, and if they don't want to be on the kitchen with those minority shareholders which are already existing there. So I cannot share with you more details except what I have said. The reputable advisors will be hired. We are talking with international financial institutions that maybe they will propose and support financially the hiring of really reputable companies. In the law of privatization, we have 2 options. One, that state property fund is doing tender, and then the cabinet of ministers should approve the consortium of advisors, and we are paying retainer fee depending on the 2 or 3 stages by the state budget, and then success fee after the privatization. But also in the law in Ukraine, it says that it could be financed by international donor organization, this retainer fee, and they will participate also in pre-selection process. So we need high quality advisors, and we are targeting to select them at the first quarter of year 2001. They are doing due diligence, proposing some actions to be done before organizing actually auctions. Sometimes it's debt restructuring, sometimes it's post-privatization conditions. We are aiming to give, of course, much more comfort and security for the potential investors.
Excellent.
If you want me, I can name you the names, but we can answer on the emails to everybody who will send the request, just with no obligation, of course. They are saying, we would like to invest in Ukraine. Please eliminate the ban in the law. Which assets do you have? This will be enough that we will bring all together and bring to the parliament, showing that there is a real interest from various real investors. I'm now speaking to business associations, to the business community, saying that it's not DIMA would like and IMF would like to do. The money are in the world. They could be invested in Ukraine.
Great, thank you. And there's been a number of questions to Roman, particularly with regards to oil and gas. A question with regards to the status of the ongoing PSA negotiations is one. A second is with regards to Naftogaz offshore and whether that's also open to investment. And the third question, Roman, is whether you and your agency will be looking to hire financial advisors to bring in investment?
So I am not surprised that oil and gas is still in focus, so it's good, especially in terms of regarding our Ukrainian potential of mineral oil and gas reserves. So in terms of the offshore, of course, the license holder will go to make the seismic. In Ukraine, there is no facilities to provide the proper seismic scale in a proper quality. So, and probably there will be most likely there will be the open tender to hire a company to carry out the proper work. So in terms of I'm talking about the offshore seismic work. As for the production sharing agreement negotiation, they are on the final point, and we expect that this month the deals will be signed. So I'm positive. So that's 1.5 years negotiations will finally be productive, and we will do that and sign a couple of agreements. Regarding the financial advisor for the geological survey of Ukraine, so actually this year we assigned a couple of memorandum of cooperation with the Schlumberger, with the well-known company from Mexico, which organized the auction in the bunch of the auction and tenders in Mexico. So, and we are open to sign this kind of documents so far, and we are open for any cooperation type.
Excellent. Thank you, Roman. That's helpful. And maybe we're nearly out of time, but there were a few questions for Rose. Maybe we'll ask one, and that was the parameter for loan size to single projects.
Hi, yeah, so we don't have a maximum. So obviously we have the market risk appetite, which is the total that we could spend. It'd obviously be a huge project to have to spend the whole of Ukraine's 2.5 billion in one. I think that would be quite a project. In terms of the minimum size, so we do have a smaller deals initiative, which has been set up to help support those smaller ticket items that can struggle to find interest from banks on. So we can go quite low into the single figures of millions there. So we've looked at transactions that 2-3 million, around that kind of ballpark. It depends on each transaction. So I think that would be the answer to that. Come to us with any size of transaction at the moment above the sort of as long as it's in the millions range, I think. And if you want to get in touch about a specific project, then I think maybe the organisers can circulate some contacts, and you can get in contact with us with your project details, and we can give you an assessment.
Excellent, Rose. No, I think you wrapped up nicely the sentiment that please, I know there are a number of outstanding questions that we didn't have time for. I think that's because we had such a high quality presentations and discussion. But please do get in touch with any of us if there are outstanding questions. And again, I think to me, the messages were loud and clear that Ukraine has made massive progress in putting in place a legislative and regulatory framework to promote more foreign direct investment. And the fact that we are virtually meeting in London today, there is interest from the UK. Also, a big thanks to the leadership of the ambassador, Rose, your agency, extending export finance. So I'm leaving encouraged on a number of fronts. The concessions, the privatization. I don't think we need to compete. I think Ukraine needs it all. And there's a lot of wealth again under the soil, and a need to improve the infrastructure to enable more exports to Europe and the UK through assets like the GTSO. So a big thank you from me to all of the panelists, to the ambassador, to Stephen Butler and the council, I think we had an excellent discussion. And I think Dimitro also made an appeal to the investors, hopefully not only to write letters, but to open their wallets. It's Christmas time, and we expect to see Ukraine has done its part. Now it's time for the investments to continue to flow. And IFC and I also stand behind that to promote more good quality strategic investment into Ukraine, into infrastructure and other areas of the economy. So thank you very much and look forward to continued dialogues with all of you.
Thank you.